Isn't this amazing? No, it's not. But it's gonna be good. Because just watching someone eat can be very boring. Why doesn't it? Hold on. You were meant to. Hold on, one sec. Ah, now it works. That is a pretzel, yes, indeed. This is part of the breakfast. But it's not the main thing. The main thing is here. Look at them. 3 Weisswurst. They're raw still. Wurst. Also, I think you got an ASMR crumbling there. Sorry. Microphone. Probably hear me fine from the kitchen. Alright, let me come back. Oatsaft. Indeed. Right. So, we need to boil our water, and then we're ready for action in a moment. Ah. Right, I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek on what may be on the horizon. And it goes back. Asuka may know what it is. You're making breakfast too? That's good. So making this is super easy. You need Weisswurst, and you need a pot, and you need boiling water. Once it bubbles, that's good enough. Then you take it from the stove, so you can also use like a water boiler to just boil it up. Then you put the sausages in, close it up, and 10 minutes, and then it's done. That's pretty much the entire deal. You have it with a pretzel and sweet mustard. And usually you'd have a beer, but I don't drink alcohol. So, I mean, I do drink the occasional cocktail, but yeah, it's good because there's a chance you might get hungry. Anyway, while we're doing that, I found those 2 videos for. God damn it, this cable is stuck all over. I always tie up the goddamn cables so badly. Yeah. This is at least a bit better. So we're just gonna listen to them. Will we cook Luna? Yes. If we reach the channel goal, we will cook Luna live on stream. Luna is up here, by the way, you can't see her. You will see her later when I change the camera. They're both on the cat tree right now. Bärchen is basically here, but you can't see her. So, whoa. The first video is from Rick Steves Europe. Now, why did I click that? There we go. Should be able to. No, you're not able to hear that. For whatever reason, because I have you on the right output. On the wrong output.
It's quintessential.
There we go. Yeah, the Oktoberfest comes after, though. So first we start with just Bavarian and Munich. Munich and the foothills of the Alps. So, here we go, and I'll collect my water real quick.
Germany, and that means Bavaria. Fairy tale castles, the exciting city of Munich, and fun in the breathtaking Alps. Like so many travelers, my images of Germany are actually of Bavaria. Castles in the Alps, lederhosen, beer gardens, and picturesque churches. I find Bavaria to be the most scenic, charming, and culturally rich part of the country.
We'll immerse ourselves in Munich's art and history.
crown jewels, bony relics, great paintings, lush and playful parks. Munich evenings are best spent in frothy beer halls. Then we'll head for the foothills of the Alps to see Europe's most famous castle, pop over the Tyrolean border to explore a nearly unknown castle, and finish atop Germany's highest peak. Germany is the heart of Europe, and Bavaria is the southern end of the country. From Munich, we venture into the foothills of the Alps to see King Ludwig's fantasy castles, take a hike over the border into Austria's Tyrol, and finally scale the Zugspitze mountain. Munich is considered Germany's most livable city. While packed with history, it's also this country's Hollywood and Silicon Valley all rolled into one. This city celebrates its traditions with gusto, and at the same time, it remains a modern cultural force. Marienplatz, or Mary Square, marks the old center. The neo-Gothic New City Hall, or Neues Rathaus, is only about 100 years old. It dominates the square. This inviting town square is now Munich's living room. The Glockenspiel performs at the top of the hour as the Bavarian royal couple, celebrating their wedding day, oversees a joust. Bavaria always wins. And
I hope you guys are paying attention, you will be quizzed.
Virtually all you see was bombed flat in World War II and rebuilt since. After the war, Germany's destroyed cities debated how they'd rebuild. They could reconstruct their old centers or bulldoze and start over.
Right, now the 10-minute start.
Well, Frankfurt voted to go modern, and today it's nicknamed Germany's Manhattan. The people of Munich decided to rebuild their old center. Buildings cannot exceed the height of the church spires.
Horrible
Today,
rule, by the way.
Munich's downtown is vital. People come here, rather than to suburban malls, to do their shopping. Munich's main drag is one of Europe's original great pedestrian zones. Local business people were enraged in 1972 when cars were first prohibited. But now, with 9,000 shoppers passing their display windows each hour, shopkeepers
Ellie and me went
are
down
happy.
that street as well.
Imagine this street in hometown USA. I'm being joined by my friend and Munich guide, George Reichelmeyer. So it's Reichelmeyer. Reichelmeyer.
So, you know, Bavaria, the state, is a very conservative part of Germany. But München, the capital, is different. It's a very liberal city. One of the ideas of the council is to keep the traffic outside. And that makes downtown München a very silent place. It's quiet over here. You have green areas always.
Indeed,
and a good
that's
public
okay.
transportation system. So leave your car outside.
You can still feel small-town Munich here at the Victualian Market, long a favorite with locals for fresh produce
Mimo
and
likes it.
friendly service. While this most expensive real estate in town would have been overrun by fast food places, Munich keeps the rent low, so these old-time shops can carry on. The Victualian Market's beer garden taps you into great budget eating. Stalls sell the best wurst, sandwiches, produce, and much more. All 6 of Munich's breweries enjoy a share of the business. At the beer counter, a sign, which changes every day or two, announces which of the beers is being served. Today's beer is Paulaner. Beer
They have
gardens
pretzels
like this
too.
go back to the days when
Very
breweries
big
stored
tradition.
their beer in cellars under courtyards kept cool by the shade of bushy chestnut trees. With the inviting shade and
it will
all that
change
cool
eventually,
beer so
like.
handy, it was only natural
Goddamn
that tables were
pessimist.
set up and these convivial eateries evolved. The twin and distinctive domes of the 500-year-old Frauenkirche are the symbol of Munich, but an even more historic church is nearby. St. Peter's Church is Munich's oldest, built where the early monks probably settled in the 12th century.
Ellie and me were
It
on
has
top
a
of
fine
that.
interior and some
You can
eye-catching
look
relics.
down, but you have to walk all the steps up.
They say Munich has more holy relics than any city outside of Rome. Why? Because for over 100 years it was the Pope's bastion against the rising tide of Protestantism up here in Northern Europe. And favors done for the Pope earned the city lots of relics as gifts. The tomb of Mundida, thought to be a 2nd century martyr, was given to Munich by Rome as a thanks and as a vivid reminder that those who die defending the Roman Church go directly to heaven without waiting for Judgment Day.
Yeah. First we eat before we start all of
Munich,
that. I owe a
or
couple
München,
things.
as it's called in German, was long the capital of an independent Bavaria.
Its royal architecture and grand boulevards constantly remind visitors that this
Sheep
was
didn't
once
scream?
a political
Oh.
and cultural powerhouse.
I'll redeem that later for you.
For maximum imperial Bavarian grandeur, tour the residence. This was the palace of the Wittelsbach family, who ruled Bavaria for more than 700 years. Like so many of Munich's architectural treasures, it was destroyed in World War II and rebuilt since.
Those horrible world wars.
To meet the
Why
Duke,
did they bomb
all
us?
official guests had to pass through this gallery, lined with 700 years of Wittelsbach portraits. Always trying to substantiate the family claim to power,
Yes,
they
Mimo,
included the
just
great
wait.
Charlemagne as an honorary family member. The paintings are scarred by knife marks. In the final months of World War II, when Allied bombs were imminent, Nazi leaders gave the hasty order to slice each portrait out of its frame and hide them away. The Wittelsbachs were always trying to keep up with the Habsburgs, their Austrian imperial rivals, and this long string of ceremonial rooms was basically all for show. The exuberant decor and furniture is from the 1700s, Rococo. And of course, the Wittelsbach family had their own porcelain made for the palace.
Of course.
With all the mirrors, it's porcelain forever.
So you know, the whole palace was really for showing off. And
You say?
imagine the Duke bringing some of his most noble guests in here with all these miniatures in here. Some even painted with just one hair brushes. That was really a sensation those days.
So these were copies of all the great masters.
Copies of the best paintings.
Dog.
The palace ballroom was decorated with ancient Roman statues.
I know.
The Wittelsbachs, like other European royals,
We
collected
might as well
and
while we
displayed
wait for the
busts of
sausage to
emperors,
boil.
strongly implying a connection between them and the Caesars.
The game will
The
probably
palace
start in like
treasury
half an
shows
hour,
off
to be fair.
1,000 years of Wittelsbach knickknacks
So
and
if you're
Bavarian
bored of
regalia,
this,
the
no
inspiration
worry.
for so many fairy tale crowns. Small mobile altars allowed kings to pack light and still have a focus for their worship while on the road. This crucifix, carved from ivory, is exquisite.
Mm-hmm.
This
Good,
reliquary,
Raina.
made in 1640,
You
shows
tell
St.
him.
George killing the dragon. It sparkles with over 2,000 precious stones. You can almost hear the dragon hissing. It was designed to contain the relics of St. George. The palace also came with a royal garden. Today, it's the realm of everyday people rather than kings, dukes, and counts.
Ellie and me have been at all of these places already. It was quite nice.
Back then, when the king called out for dinner, he called Alois Dallmayr. This royal delicatessen became famous for its exotic and luxurious food items. All the tropical fruits, seafood, chocolates, great wines, and fancy treats a king could want. Catering to royal and aristocratic tastes and budgets, it remains the choice of Munich's connoisseurs of fine living.
We would hope he does.
Too many calories? Bikes can be rented quickly and easily at the train station. Biking makes as much sense in cities like Munich
Very
as it does
good.
in the countryside. This city, level and compact with plenty of bike paths, feels good on two wheels. In fact, with all these bike and pedestrian zones, you can often get around faster here on two wheels than you can by taxi. Munich's 200-year-old English Garden sprawls over 3 miles through the city. It's the largest urban park on the continent. On a sunny summer afternoon, thousands of sun worshippers
Look away.
enjoy its varied attractions. at
Also,
the
there's
same time.
always one dude standing naked on the grass there.
We're here in August, and the surf's up.
Yeah,
Where
we
the
surf.
stream enters the park, its swift flow forms a perpetual wave for local surfers. Meandering further along, the stream becomes as laid back as the sunbathers on its banks. While a local law requires people to wear clothes on city trams, Munich's parks
Ugh,
are
there he
sprinkled
is.
with nude
I can't
sunbathers.
believe that they did that.
Students, office workers, and families alike
Ugh.
enjoy a sunny break from the daily
No,
grind.
no.
This
Mimo, look
relaxed
away.
attitude toward nudity is
Oh, no.
commonplace in much of Europe. There are several huge beer gardens within the park. On a balmy summer evening, these are a good
Oh,
stop
they
for
have the
dinner.
good big ones.
Traditionally,
Damn.
beer gardens allow picnickers to bring their own food and use a table.
But
if
you
they
need to buy
a
it beer. Yeah.
We're eating as Bavarian as possible. I've got my fish on a stick here. What do you call this in German?
It's a Steckerlfisch.
Steckelfish.
Steckerlfish, fish on a
A nice big pretzel,
stick. Your Bretzen.
carefully carved radish. You've got what? That's
A pork knuckle.
pork knuckle.
Yes, that's a big portion of meat.
And big beers.
And big beers.
München.
Cheers.
Whether you bring your own food or buy it here, this is a classic Munich gemütlich scene. Gemütlich is a unique word for Bavaria's special coziness. and
I'll have a
knack
look
for
at that.
savoring the moment.
Hearing
Munich's
some
many
weird
grand
noises.
facades
Like,
recall the city's cultural importance for this region.
As the capital of Bavaria for centuries, Munich was able to amass lots of great art. And a cluster of museums shows off masterpieces through the ages. We've got 19th century art just over there, a wonderful collection of modern art across the street, and we're heading for the old masters at the Alte Pinakothek.
Alexa, how much time left?
The Alte Pinakothek, or Old Painting Gallery, shows off Bavaria's best collection of European masterpieces from the
No.
14th through the 18th centuries, featuring work by many of the greats. Botticelli's Lamentation shows the early Renaissance
Caro is
ability
just
to show
grumpy.
spirituality
That is a pretzel,
through
Ellie.
human emotions. Leonardo's
Alexa?
Madonna with a Carnation
Stop.
was done when the artist was only 21, well
It's
on his
time.
way to Mona Lisa greatness. And in this marvelous Holy Family, Raphael is clearly the master of grace. Paintings give a peek at the tumultuous events as
I'll
Germany
just
woke
take
from its medieval slumbers and entered a new epoch.
God damn it, I keep
In
doing
this
that.
self-portrait,
I shouldn't.
Albrecht Dürer, one of the class of 1500, heralds an optimistic new age. Dürer brings the humanistic spirit of Italy's Renaissance to the medieval north. Recently returned from Italy, Dürer portrays himself, the artist, with unprecedented self-esteem. When this individualism met church authority, sparks flew. Dürer's four apostles seem to reflect the turbulent times when the Reformation swept through Northern Europe. With the rugged features of everyday people, they take the Bible into their own hands, a humanist coup that ignited an all-Europe war.
Okay.
Looking around suspiciously,
Pay attention now. You lay it this way. Then you cut it like so. And then, if it's a good one, you can peel it in one single go. Yes, you peel these. There's multiple ways, but this is like the most simple one. There's also one where you just hold it in your hand and basically suck it out, which is weird. But yeah. And then you just give it a wee bit of mustard. And then you eat that.
they clutch a Bible in one hand and a sword in the other, prepared to defend their beliefs.
In 1517, the German monk Martin Luther broke with the church in Rome. Suddenly, people had to choose, Protestant or Catholic. Albrecht Dürer actually met Martin Luther. He was impressed with his ideas and became one of his supporters.
The Catholic Church
You don't need to
with the
be eat.
Counter-Reformation and also used art as a weapon. The church hired Rubens to show the epic battle, Saint Michael hurling Lucifer out of heaven. The lesson? Those who oppose God's will shall lose. Believers had the entire Mass to ponder these scenes.
All these heavenly battles mirrored what was going on in Europe. After 30 years of religious wars, a third of Germany was
Good shit.
dead. Finally, in 1648, an exhausted Europe made a treaty enabling Protestants and Catholics to coexist.
Munich has so much to see, and we've saved the liveliest stop for last.
Horrible. Horrible.
For traditional Bavarian fun, nothing beats a good old-fashioned beer hall. Munich is Germany's beer capital, and the Hofbrauhaus is its ultimate beer hall. It comes complete with rivers of beer, cheap food, boisterous atmosphere, and ruckus oompa music. Even if you're not eating or drinking, check it out. While it can be extremely touristic, everybody's having lots of fun.
It's usually
Beer
90%
comes
tourists.
in huge liter mugs called ein Maß in German or ein Pitcher in English. You can order your beer Helles, that's light, Dunkles, that's dark, or Radler, half lemon soda and half beer. Munich is the home of the famous Oktoberfest, but you can enjoy essentially the same Oktoberfest fun any time of year right here at the Hofbrauhaus.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to piss under these benches. In Oktoberfest you are.
From Munich, an hour's drive takes us deep into southern Bavaria. It's a timeless land of manicured fields, painted buildings, content
This is one
towns,
of
and
the things where I
characteristic
want to take
onion-domed
Ellie to.
churches. This is a playground for people enjoying the good life at the foothills of the Alps. And it's a land of fairy tale
There
castles.
we go.
And the most spectacular, the castles of King Ludwig II of Bavaria, aka Mad King Ludwig. He grew up here in the Hohenschwangau Castle. Ludwig then built his dream castle, Neuschwanstein, a 15-minute hike away.
It is basically a fairy tale
Castles are
castle.
hugely popular, and they're
They even
tourable
used it
only
for
by
movies.
appointment with a guided tour. Tickets are sold at the kiosk in the valley.
We are
floor.
definitely
So
going
avoid
to
long
take a
lines
car
are
though.
reserved. Or, better yet, call in advance for a tour reservation. Hohenschwangau Castle, Ludwig's boyhood home, looks much like it did in 1836. It's the more lived-in and historic of the two castles, giving a better glimpse at Ludwig's life. This is young King Ludwig's bedroom. And this was his reading chair. The banquet hall is slathered in epic German myths. Germany became a single united country only in 1871. As if to bolster its legitimacy, this young nation dug deep into its murky medieval past. These heroes and legends inspired young King Ludwig to build his fanciful castles, Richard Wagner to compose
I'm sure
his
that's a different
ultra-romantic
Ludwig,
operas,
Mo.
and Germans to believe their nation was deeply rooted in history.
Politically, the frustrating reality of young King Ludwig was to rule either as a pawn of Prussia or a pawn of Austria, the two dominant Germanic countries. Rather than deal with the politics of Munich, romantic Ludwig escaped here to the peace and comfort of Hohenschwangau.
Ludwig ruled Bavaria for 23 years until his death in 1886. His best friends were romantic artists, like the great composer Wagner, who Ludwig idolized. Neuschwanstein Castle is just up the hill. Imagine King Ludwig as a boy climbing these hills, dreaming up this ultimate fairy tale castle. It looks medieval, but it's only about as old as the Eiffel Tower. Built in the late 1800s, it's a textbook example of the Romantic style, popular at the time. The castle's interior is decorated with misty medieval themes, brave knights, fair maidens, and scenes from Wagnerian operas. Ludwig personified this romantic age. Longing for the natural beauty and emotion of an earlier time, he built his medieval fantasy on the hilltop not for defensive reasons, but because he liked the view.
Good call.
King Ludwig intended to sit on a golden ivory throne in the company of 6 historic kings who were made saints. The religious Ludwig was fascinated by things Byzantine. This room is based on the plan of a Byzantine church. And the 1-ton chandelier is the shape of a Byzantine crown.
1 ton. Jesus Christ.
Just a few months after he moved into Neuschwanstein, Ludwig, who was already planning to build an even more extravagant castle, was declared mentally unfit to rule. 2 days later, he was found dead in a lake.
Yeah.
People still debate, was it murder or suicide? But nobody complains any longer about the extravagant cost of his fanciful castles. In fact, within 6 weeks of his funeral, tourists were already paying to visit them, and they're still coming.
Yes, yes, yeah. Oh my god.
We're staying just over the border in the
I'm
Austrian
eating.
district of Tyrolia. With far less tourism, this area offers
God damn it, I should have put a
great
timer
value
on that.
and maximum charm. I sleep in the village of Pinswang at Guesthouse Schluchsen. My tour groups give this place the Best Remote Hotel in an Idyllic Setting award. Run
You
by
will see,
Gracious
Emo.
Herman,
You will
this
see.
family-friendly working farm offers a great restaurant with plenty of Tyrolean ambience and tastefully modern rooms. From this comfy base, you can conveniently tour the region or just smell the geraniums and feed the deer.
We can do that in Munich too.
A hike up to the stark and brooding ruins of Ehrenberg Castle provides a striking contrast to Ludwig's fantasy castles. Historian Armin Walsh is spearheading a project excavating and developing what he calls an ensemble of castles.
Looks
which will
like
create
Scotland.
A unique open-air museum.
We have an ensemble of castles, 4 elements built in different periods. We start here in the Middle Age with Ehrenberg. We have a Gothic element in the valley. We have a Baroque castle, and we have a brand new fortification system of the 18th century.
We're
Brand
visiting
new.
2 castles of the ensemble, the 13th century Ehrenberg and, higher on the right, the 17th century Schlosskopf.
This is a very strategic place because it lies on the 2,000-year-old Via Claudia Augusta. This is a road through the Alps which connected Venezia, Italy with Germany. And this road was also in the Middle Age very important because they transported salt, the white gold. Anyone
salt.
who controlled the castles controlled the trade. So in the Middle Age, they had to find the perfect hilltop to build the castle.
A steep hike takes us up to the bigger and more modern Schlosskopf Castle, which Armin and his crew have just recently started uncovering.
Well, Rick, 2 years ago, nobody in this town knew, or only few people knew that there was a fortification on top of the hill. 2 years ago, you couldn't see anything. It was covered with trees.
So you shaved this
Vielen Dank,
off.
kleiner Bruder.
We shaved it, we cleaned it. It was completely covered with trees. So from right there, you couldn't see anything.
Whoa, all right.
30th century castles like Ehrenberg were built with tiny walls, high towers on hills because of the defense system of the Middle Age. Then they invented cannons. Cannons made this kind of architecture destroyable.
This became clear in the early 1700s when, by cover of darkness, local Tyroleans wheeled 2 cannon up here and pulverized Ehrenberg Castle, which was occupied by their enemies, the Bavarians. From this point on, Ehrenberg-style castles were obsolete, and cannon-proof castles like Schlosskopf became the norm.
Schlosskopf was built in 1741.
Good.
Now we see the difference in architecture and fortification. They built here a fortification system 250 meters long, thick walls, 8 meter thick walls, tunnels, everything. A real fortification system for cannons.
Modern warfare.
Modern warfare.
Meeting Europeans
Like for
Armin,
Call of
so
Duty.
connected to their heritage and satisfied with
Well,
their
he
life's
cannot
work
punish me.
is one of the fundamental charms of European
He has
travel.
water here. He's like standing
We're
right
crossing
here.
from Austria back into Germany to ascend a mountain not capped by a castle.
Bouncing between countries as you sightsee is now easier than ever. With the unification of Europe,
And then we
border
watched
crossings are
the-
basically a thing of the past. And with the
the
euro,
video
the
for
same cash works in nearly all of Western
Oktoberfest,
Europe.
and then we get started on Monster Hunter, my boys.
The Zugspitze at 10,000 feet is Germany's
Also another
highest
place
mountain.
where I want to get Ellie up.
A mighty cable car zips us to the top in 10 minutes. The cable is supported by only 2 pylons and stretches the
Yeah, I
last
already
mile to
did.
the summit with no support at all.
Mm-hmm.
While there may be many higher mountains in the Alps, this one's unique, standing alone with a view of over 400 peaks in 4 countries: Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and even Italy. The mountain marks the border between the German state of Bavaria, or Bayern, and the Austrian state of the Tyrol. And today, no passports are necessary to enjoy this high-altitude resort destination on what feels like the top of Europe. The Zugspitze is named for a cold and ghostly wind which can really howl in the winter. This hiker's hut was built 100 years ago.
And thanks to these beefy cable tie-downs, it's never been blown off the top. By the way, even on a sunny day, it can be cold up here. Bring a jacket.
The summit is
Ellie
marked
will
by
need
a
the
cross,
jacket.
carried up here by hardy villagers in
Thanks, Mimo.
1882. Today, thanks to conveniently placed ladders and cables, it's climbed either from the distant valley floor or from the adjacent summit restaurant
no.
by families, seniors,
We go up
and
with cable
even
cart.
travelers.
Definitely no climbing.
Whether you're scaling summits,
Jesus Christ.
conquering castles, marveling at the treasures of Munich, or picking up slivers on a beer hall bench, this region, nestled here at the base of the Alps, is a joy.
That's 20 now.
This area is another reason Europe just keeps drawing me back. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rick Steves.
Right.
Until next time, keep on traveling. Auf Wiedersehen.
Mount
People of Frankfurt decided to go modern, and the city's nickname.
Right, so we have this one video just for the Oktoberfest itself, because that's something that Munich is so known for. And while you guys watch this, I'll mute myself and clean up and get ready for the Monster Hunters.
May be cancelled for 2020, but that shouldn't stop you from visiting virtually. In today's video, I'm taking you on a virtual visit to the world's largest beer festival, showing you exactly what goes down during this intense 2.5-week ball of chaos that hurtles through Munich every year. Well, every year before the virus who must not be named. So, let's get going. Hit that cheesy intro. What's up, Smarties? Christina here from HappyToWander.com. It has been a little while, but I'm here today with a virtual trip to Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany, an event I've been lucky to attend every year since moving to Munich 5 years ago. If you've ever wondered what the festival is actually like, what every tent looks like inside, what you can eat, and all sorts of fun facts, this video is for you. Using clips from previous years, I'll show you exactly what to expect. And if you want some more Oktoberfest content like recipes, DIY party ideas, how to get table reservations for next year, and more, be sure to visit the Oktoberfest section of my site for tons more information. Now, let's start with some numbers so you have an idea of just how huge Oktoberfest really is. Oktoberfest is the largest beer festival in the world, spanning 2.5 weeks annually from late September to early October. In 2019, Oktoberfest welcomed over 6.3 million visitors who guzzled down over 7.3 million liters of beer. And this isn't just regular beer either. The beer served at Oktoberfest is brewed especially for the festival with a stronger alcohol content than normal. And if that sounds like a recipe for disaster, you are completely correct. Besides beer though, you'll find fairground rides, games, amazing food stalls, and of course, the main attraction, dozens of epic beer tents that are all unique in design and decor. But how did this all begin? Let's give you a quick rundown of Oktoberfest history. While today Oktoberfest is known as a beer festival where millions of people go every year to lose their dignity, it might surprise some of you to know that the very first Oktoberfest was actually a wedding. The year was 1810. Crown Prince Ludwig, who would later become King Ludwig I, was set to marry Princess Theresa of Saxony-Hildburghausen. So, they did what royals did back then best. They threw an epic party. Everyone in Munich was invited to celebrate at the fields in front of the city gates, which is still where the festivities are held today. That empty space would come to be known as Theresienwiese, translated in English to the Meadow of Theresa, named after the blushing bride herself. This name still stands today, and is why most locals refer to Oktoberfest as the Wiesen. The horse races and celebrations were so beloved that they returned the year after that, and the year after that. Then they started adding amusement park rides, carousels, beer tents, and really the rest is history. Today, the first day of Oktoberfest looks a little something like this. If you don't have a reservation, you need to get up at the crack of dawn to go mark your spot in line. Once they cut the ribbon, so to speak, it's a no-holds-barred running match to the tents. Here's some footage of my boyfriend leaving me in the dust. All tents will have a section for unreserved tables, but you have to run to secure your spot. The first day is also kind of unique because beer can't be served until 12 p.m., which means lots of sober waiting around. But once noon hits, every effort will have been worth it. The first day is also marked by a fun opening day parade where each tent takes part in a procession that marches through the city center. It's a lot of fun and a good alternative to joining the Oktoberfest Hunger Games on the first day.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
Now on that note, why don't we talk a bit more about the beer tents? First things first, they may be known as tents, but I think that word really undersells just how epic these structures are. At Oktoberfest, you'll find 17 large tents that can fit thousands of people inside each one. And that's not even counting the giant beer gardens that most of them have as well. It's little wonder why they actually take months to build, and so they start construction early in the summer.
Yep.
Not only does every tent look different with
That's
different
true.
themes, colors, menus, and specialties, they all serve different beers as well. And the rule is, beer at Oktoberfest must come from one of Munich's 6 city breweries: Augustina, Hacker Pschorr, Hofbräu, Löwenbräu, Hollaner, and Spaten. Each tent will serve beer from one of these breweries, so if you want to catch them all, you can definitely try. But odds are you'll end up on Passout Hill way before that.
Yeah,
Especially
this is
because
real.
beer here is served by the liter, also known as a mass. They're not cheap, ranging from 11 to 12 euros plus tip for a single one. And if you want your server to come back, you'll definitely have to tip them well. Servers are like the unsung heroes of Oktoberfest, but they do get compensated accordingly. While they're not paid an hourly wage, they make approximately 50 cents per mass plus tips. And trust me, it adds up fast. Reports say that servers can earn anything from 5,000 to over 10,000 euros for the 2.5 weeks' work. Definitely not bad.
We should make Ellie do
And
that.
if you haven't left yet to Google how to become an Oktoberfest server, now it's time to take a peek inside each large Oktoberfest tent. So let's hit some tunes and take a quick tour. As I mentioned, every tent at Oktoberfest has a different character and color scheme. Some pay homage to traditions like hunting,
Yeah, I
while
think
others
you're in the
feature
wrong
motifs
room,
of their
buddy.
favorite culinary specialties. The oldest tent at Oktoberfest is the Schottenhamel tent, which started as a shack with 50 seats, but today has an indoor capacity of over 6,000 people. This is also where the party starts, because on the first day at Oktoberfest, it is in this tent at noon that the mayor taps the first keg of the festival.
Nothing
Fun fact,
more.
Albert Einstein also worked in this tent. He wasn't a server though, he was screwing in light bulbs as a teenager. Another noteworthy tent is the Hacker tent, known by its nickname, the Heaven of Bavaria. Its decor is light blue with fluffy clouds and many Bavarian motifs. It's by far one of my favorites. Not my favorite is the infamous Hofbräu tent, a favorite among international tourists because of the brewery's
Yeah,
international
because
fame.
everyone knows
This tent
Hofbräu.
is beautiful, but it's always packed and it's definitely among the festival's rowdiest.
Because all the tourists are in it.
For a more wholesome experience, visitors can't miss the Oidewiesen, a special section of Oktoberfest that feels like a
will.
step back in time. It costs a few euros extra, but is 100% worth it for cozy tents and old school rides that are reminiscent of what Oktoberfest would have been like decades ago. Lastly, unbeknownst to most, Oktoberfest does actually have an entire tent dedicated to wine.
Oh god, the
Although
wine
beer
tent.
is definitely
Fucking
still the
hell.
star of the show.
It's where people get shit faced.
For a detailed breakdown of each tent with photos
No.
and fun facts, be sure to visit happytowonder.com.
There you go. My
Now,
boys.
after
Oh,
all that sightseeing, you must be starving.
Oh, we're not
so
done yet.
let's talk about Oktoberfest food. Granted, food might not be the first thing you think about when you hear the word Oktoberfest, but where there's drunk people, there's bound to be drunk munchies.
mhm.
And at Oktoberfest, the most popular dishes are the ones that fill you right up. From roast chickens and giant pretzels to pork knuckles with potato dumplings and gravy, the food at Oktoberfest isn't exactly light, but it is delicious. And if you visit certain tents, the selections can even be pretty gourmet. Käfer's Wiesenschanke, for example, is known for its culinary offerings, which
Yeah,
is probably
no.
why that tent is one of the most exclusive.
These things
But
are
besides
all
what's served
costing at
inside the
least
tents,
4
there's
times as
plenty
much
of
as they
stalls
should,
on the
by the
ground
way.
selling street foods like sandwiches, hot dogs, roasted almonds, and my personal favorite, fried garlic shrimp. Trust me when I say I would take a bullet for this shrimp. So, as you can see, Oktoberfest cuisine is definitely the worst, both for your waistline and your wallet.
Ah.
And while spending far too much on food is pretty much an Oktoberfest tradition of its own,
Yeah.
so is getting drunk and paying to go on rides you would otherwise never attempt. From carousels and swing rides to bumper cars and roller coasters, there are dozens of fairground rides and games scattered
Yeah, this
across
is what
the
most people
Oktoberfest
don't know.
grounds,
Like,
the
there's
majority
an
of which
entire
date back to the
fairground.
19th century. This fairground aspect is what makes Oktoberfest actually quite the family affair. Most first-time visitors are shocked to see that children are running around the festival, but actually you'll see plenty of them during the day. There's even special family days for discounts on rides and food. Don't worry though, if you see a small child downing what looks like a beer, odds are it's Apfelschorle, a popular local drink that's just a mix of apple juice and sparkling water. And while the Ferris wheel is an iconic sight of Oktoberfest, the most thrilling ride is hands down the Olympia Looping, also known as the largest transportable roller coaster in the world.
Ah,
and
that's the
only
one that
of
you
its
said
kind
you
with
saw
5
somewhere
loops.
else already.
There's also the Bavarian Tower, a swing ride that goes 80 meters above ground. I've been on it and it wasn't pretty. My personal favorites though are the attractions where you get to watch people make a fool of themselves. For that, there's the amazing toboggan, where you watch drunkies zip their way up a conveyor belt, climb up a spiral staircase, and slide down on a wooden slide. And of course, my personal favorite, the Teufelsrad, aka the Devil's Wheel, which has been an Oktoberfest institution since 1910. This game is simple. There's a spinning wheel in the middle. Groups
Look
of
at these
are
people.
called up according to different categories. Then the wheel starts spinning and the last person holding on wins. They don't actually win anything except bragging rights, but it's pretty fun to watch. Now, last but not least, let's talk about Oktoberfest outfits. Lederhosen and dirndls are some of the most iconic symbols of the festival, with locals and tourists alike dressing up for the occasion. But it's important to note that these traditional outfits, known as tracht, aren't costumes. They're actually traditional garments worn for many other occasions in Bavaria, like church, weddings,
they're way
and
too
one
expensive.
time I even saw a guy mowing his lawn in the countryside in his lederhosen.
Because they're made from
For me,
deer
Oktoberfest
leather.
is like Fashion Week. I love seeing all these traditional outfits, which is why one of my favorite Oktoberfest traditions is a parade dedicated to tracht that takes place on the first Sunday of Oktoberfest every year. Over 9,000 participants march in this parade, showing off all their unique trachten. Groups come from villages and towns all across Bavaria, and seeing the differences in tracht is really so much fun. Some towns even try to upstage the others with giant floats and displays.
That's kind of what you had in Wick.
So, now that you know about Oktoberfest history, beer, tents, and outfits, it's time to relax and enjoy a virtual beer of your own. The song you're hearing right now is called Ein Prosit, and it is one that you will
Oh my
hear every
God.
10 minutes or so at Oktoberfest.
Yeah, because it's meant to
At
make
the
you
end,
drink.
you're meant to cheers everyone at your table and take a sip.
Yeah.
Some say that every time it plays, the tent earns 3,000 euros from all the sips being taken.
Just think about that.
And while brass bands and oompa music are popular during the day, most tents go into party mode at night, with a stream of party favorites, classic hits, and plenty of benchtop dancing. Just don't stand on the table to chug your beer or you'll probably be thrown out. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me on this virtual trip to Oktoberfest 2020. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been or ever plan to go.
There we
And
go,
as
my
always,
boys.
if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more virtual Europe travel coming soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!
So now you have a perfect idea about how Munich works.